A turning point for the Republican Party. Gas shortages hit the Southeast and the cicadas are coming. Wednesday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Wednesday, May 12th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Rosano. Good morning. That's how I talk, sing to my daughter. Get ready.
Good morning. I am getting ready. Wow, it's really getting close. You should see Becky. She looks like she has a beach ball attached to her stomach. It's like so cute. I can't even get over it.
I hope she's feeling good. She's due in 2 weeks, right? Almost?
3 weeks, I think. I think 3 weeks from today. Yeah.
Well, the craziest part of this time period is that it really could happen anytime.
Yeah. She's 37 weeks. She's 37 weeks tomorrow, which I believe is full term.
Okay, let's get to some news here because we could, of course, talk babies for a while. And let's start with the latest in the Middle East. Hamas militants launched a barrage of rockets towards Tel Aviv after an Israeli airstrike leveled an apartment complex in Gaza. Israel had launched dozens more airstrikes overnight as Gaza militants fired rockets back in the worst escalation of violence since the 2014 war. There is no sign yet of the situation cooling off. The death toll in Gaza rose to 43 Palestinians, including 13 children and 3 women, according to the health ministry. 5 Israelis, including 3 women and a child, were also killed by rocket fire. This according to the Associated Press. So again, this situation, as I said, not really showing any signs of slowing down.
You see that video of the Iron Dome missile defense system intercepting some of those rockets? Incredible footage, truly. Just really amazing video.
Palestinian Islamic Jihad, by the way, put out a video last night thanking Iran for their rockets. They're typically smuggled through Egypt, through tunnels from Egypt into Gaza. But again, it does not look like this is going to end soon. Israel called up reservists. And it's funny, I was Googling to just try and find out a little bit about what's going on. So I just put in Israel calling up reservists, and I got an article from 2014, actually, which was the last time that there was a war between Israel and the Palestinians. So unfortunately, this is where
we've been here
right
before.
Now.
I didn't realize that about Iran, and I was actually wondering that because there's a blockade, right? Like I didn't really understand how how Hamas gets all these rockets, given that there's this big blockade against them. But I guess that answers my question. So I hope cooler heads can prevail, Jill.
Okay, let's talk about the pandemic here. The World Health Organization warning that one of the virus variants circulating in India appears to be the most contagious mutation seen so far during this pandemic. It's the B1617 strain, already deemed a variant of concern by the World Health Organization. It's not clear, though, to what extent that variant is driving up the surge in India, which is still out of control. In the U.S., where daily cases are holding below 40,000, the CDC is defending its public guidance amid growing impatience that the agency is being too slow to relax its recommendations as the pandemic recedes, at least in this country.
The CDC director spoke in front of the Senate yesterday where Republicans really laid into her. But it wasn't just Republicans, actually. There's really growing frustration among a lot of the public health officials that I follow on social media, and that just who I follow in the press, especially when it comes to something that you and I have been talking about forever now, which is outdoor transmission. The CDC guidance on summer camps, I don't know if you've seen this, they put it out a week or 2 ago, and it's just a great example of this sort of like safetyism, I guess you would call it. I don't know if that's really a word. But the guidance for summer camps is that children and fully vaccinated counselors, like fully vaccinated adults, have to wear their masks at all times, including being outdoors. They also said that less than 10% of COVID transmission occurs outdoors, which is true. But it's like saying that there were fewer than 100 people abducted by aliens last year. Like, no, there's no COVID transmission outside, basically. I mean, there hasn't been one confirmed case of somebody getting the coronavirus from hanging out outside, playing, being on the beach, playing outdoors.
Except, wasn't the Amy Coney Barrett outdoor? Wasn't that kind of a super spreader event at the White House? But they were indoor also. But
yeah, it was.
There were pictures of all of them kind of sitting on top of each other.
That's a great example.
So I remember thinking they're outside, but of course this was like the height when there was so much more coronavirus in the air.
No, I remember reading a study about that exact event, trying to figure out what exactly happened at the Rose Garden that day. And from everything that I gathered, it was the indoor stuff. It wasn't that they were sitting outside. It was that they had like a tete-a-tete inside where everybody was hanging out maskless and touching each other and shaking hands, which of course is how you get COVID. But it isn't from being outside. And I think that the CDC really has to come to Jesus on this stuff. Like, it's just, people are going to start, if they haven't already, just not listening to what they're saying, right?
So over the weekend, we went out for dinner with a friend of ours, and they said to me earlier in the week, but my friend said, I'm going to make a reservation. Are you still only doing outdoor dining? Yep. So I said, yeah, my husband and I were vaccinated, but that's how we're most comfortable. So we made a reservation somewhere. Well, actually, we went somewhere that didn't take reservations. There was this whole mix-up. Bottom line is we had to sit inside. And I was in a total kind of panic as I walked in. I had a sip of alcohol, and I was, this is great, back to regular. And I was we were talking about it, and the guy that my friend's husband said, because they've been doing this for a while, ever since they're vaccinated. Like they've traveled, they go in and they eat indoors. And he said, look, I'm trusting the science. Like, I got the vaccine, I'm fully vaccinated. Yeah. That means there is a basically very, very slim chance I'm going to get COVID. And if I get it, it's going to be a mild case. I want to live. And what? And I thought about that and I said, I'm such a science stickler. Maybe I do need to follow the science a little bit, and maybe it is okay to be eating indoors. Even if some of these people in this restaurant are not vaccinated, I am, and my husband is. Yeah. Yes. And you know what? It felt nice, and I'm going to knock on wood. And obviously, we're still. There was an incubancy period, and we're I don't know if we're out of the clear, whatever it is, but it felt nice, and I thought I should be following the science, and the science would tell you you're in pretty good shape if you get vaccinated.
Exactly. I'm glad to hear that. I've personally been eating at restaurants inside this week. I've just been going out to lunch by myself and sitting at the bar or in the booth at the diner. And it's, first of all, it's a terrible way it costs a lot of money to eat this way. But I've just been doing it as like a little prize to myself for getting vaccinated and supporting restaurants that I like. And it's great. And it feels great. And I feel very comfortable doing it. And I wish people like President Biden would maybe take the mask off when he's outside. Like, show people that once you're vaccinated, you can start getting back to normal here.
We did. So we hosted Mother's Day, and my husband's two aunts came, and they're vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and they were really buttoned up for the whole pandemic and hadn't really done much or seen a lot of people. And they cried tears of joy when they came in and saw my daughter and their other nieces and nephews, and it is a miracle, right? I mean, it really is. It is a miracle of science that we're in this position, and you're right. Like, we should appreciate it, and by just acting and you, I will admit, were a little bit ahead of this than I was even. And so I'm where you are right now, though, Carlo, because I get it.
That's
it's
great.
Like, we have to acknowledge how miraculous these vaccines are and act appropriately. If we just keep doing the same thing, what's the point?
Well, especially because the people who are vaccine hesitant, think about how why would you get vaccinated if you're just like, I got to keep doing the same thing? Like, I have to go visit my kid at summer camp and I have to wear a mask outside with them. Like, I'm vaccinated. So yeah, I think it's really important to show people that the vaccines are safe, effective, and a miracle.
The White House also announcing this partnership with Uber and Lyft to make all rides to and from vaccination sites free until July 4th. It's part of Biden's push to get 70% of adults at least partially vaccinated by Independence Day.
Also in New York City today, I love this. You can get the Johnson & Johnson shot in the subway. They're giving them out in mobile clinics in a handful of subway stations here. And they'll even give you a free 7-day Metro card, which is, if you don't,
Wow.
just for doing it. So, we talk about creative ways to get people vaccinated. This is a great example. So the city should be, should feel really good about that, I think.
House Republicans will vote today on whether to oust one of their leaders, Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney, over her failure to support former President Trump and the lies about the election. Cheney delivered a defiant speech ahead of that House floor vote last night, framing today's vote as a turning point for the GOP. She said, quote, "I will not sit back and watch in silence while others lead our party down a path that abandons the rule of law and joins the former president's crusade to undermine our democracy."
The fact that Liz Cheney is being heralded on MSNBC as this like paragon of virtue, it really just shows you what a bizarro world we have entered here. And it's also incredible what little support she has in her own party. If there were ever a time to break from Trump, if you're a Republican, it would be right now, right? It would be following January 6th. We're in a non-election year. He can't even call you out on social media because he's banned. So this would be the time to do it. And still, it's crickets. That said, more than 100 Republicans are preparing to release an open letter threatening to form a third party. They're probably going to do that today or tomorrow if the GOP doesn't make a clean break from Trump. This is sort of like an echo of the Never Trump movement in 2016, which obviously didn't really go very far. The problem is that, according to the latest NBC News poll, 44% of Republican voters say that they are more loyal to Trump than they are to the party. Politicians reflect their voters, right, in both parties. So until that number goes much lower, this is what we're going to see. This is Trump's party. So I think Republicans are very lucky that we're a long way from 2024, and a lot can happen before then.
Meanwhile, the Dow saw its worst day since February during one of the wilder trading sessions of the year yesterday. A major sell-off in tech sparked by renewed concerns about inflation and sky-high valuations spread to other sectors before investors went back into tech stocks like Amazon and Facebook, leaving the rest of the market in the red after all the wild swings. The Nasdaq ended the day flat. The Dow, though, lost close to 500 points, which when the Dow was at like 18,000 a few years ago, would have been a much bigger deal. But that just because the Dow is so, at record highs, it's not, that sounds much worse than it actually is. By percentage, I think it's what, like 1%, 2%?
It's like 1%. Yeah. That's actually a great point. The rule when I was at NBC on the assignment desk was when the Dow dropped 500 points, that's when we would break in to the stations with a special report. So you're right. Like I still think of it as like this big number, but you're right. In terms of percentages, it's actually not even that bad. Keep an eye on CPI today. That's the Consumer Price Index, a sort of piece of economic data that you don't typically spend that much time thinking about, but it measures what we pay for, stuff like groceries, cars, clothing, appliances. It's basically a gauge of inflation. So that comes out, I think, 8:30 this morning, and that should tell you, at least give you a sense of the inflationary situation in this country right now.
Just back to the percentage versus the points. It's funny because my husband, who is a trader, he doesn't ever talk to me in terms of points. When I try to talk markets with him, he when I say how many points, he doesn't even know in some ways. He just talks to me about percentage because I think that's really what matters.
It's true. It's sort of like a media thing because 500 points sounds really. It's also true that people in the business on Wall Street don't care about the Dow, really. Right?
No, not at all.
Right.
The Dow is literally, it's the Dow 30. It's 30 stocks.
Yeah, right. It's really the S&P that matters. Yeah.
On that note, though, when we talk about inflation and what's going on with just the price of everything, the effects of the continued pipeline outage now showing up at gas pumps across the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic. A full 20% of Atlanta area service stations are dry, according to Gas Buddy, which recommends that people in areas seeing outages not fill up their tanks unless absolutely necessary. With more than 1,000 stations out of gas across the Southeast, the White House urging people not to panic by saying that the pipeline will be back at full capacity soon. Nothing makes somebody panic by like telling them not to panic by.
Exactly. It's the panic buying. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It does. You don't need to do it, but then once people start doing it, then you do it and you get caught up, and that's what creates these shortages. The White House, though, has really not been forthcoming enough about this. The more I think about, I mean, what is going on here? We're in day 6 of this outage. This pipeline that carries half of the gas to the East Coast is still out. What's the deal? Did this company pay the ransom? Is Russia involved, or are these really just these apolitical hackers? Right? Like, what's going on? Like, can we get a press conference or something here? But you're right. The panic buying, it's really dumb. But, we saw it with like the toilet paper last year, right? Like, people do it. I was actually talking to my sister, Lexi, who is driving across the Southeast for some reason right now on her way to New Orleans. So she was sending me pictures of gas stations from South Carolina to Georgia to Alabama with, tape over the pumps and lines of cars, filling up those big red canisters. So it really is. It's happening. And just on the hack, Brian Krebs, who is a security analyst, he's a really smart guy, great Twitter follow. Krebs on security, I believe is his handle, or maybe just be Brian Krebs. Anyway, he did this really deep dive into this group, and he said, I thought this was really interesting, that if you're worried about a lot of these ransomware hacking groups, one thing that you can do, whether you're a business or a person, is install the Russian keyboard onto your computer, and not the physical Russian keyboard, but like the piece of software on your operating system that lets you have the Russian keyboard, because a lot of this malware is programmed not to install itself on computers that have that Cyrillic alphabet. You don't have to actually. Yeah, you don't have to actually use it, but just apparently this software, when it sees that you have it installed on your computer, it won't infect it.
Very interesting. But back to the gas, my friend is a photographer down in Charlotte. He posted on Instagram some story. He said 1.5 hour wait currently for gas at Costco. He said people are panic buying. Someone filled up. They're just filling up like 5-gallon jugs of gas. So not only are they filling up their cars, I personally,
which you should not do.
No, I filled up my car yesterday, $58.
Yeah.
$58. I was like, this hurts.
Yeah. No, it's real. Yeah, it was $51, I think, when I filled up my tank the other day. What was I going to say there? I forget. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
I had something to say too that I also forgot.
It's only Wednesday. It feels like this week has been going on forever.
I know, and I wasn't even here Monday, actually. So I have
That's
no
always
excuse.
how it works.
The city of Oakland, California could go from having 3 pro sports teams to 0 if the Athletics split town, which they are now threatening to do with the blessing of the MLB. So the A's are in a dispute with the city over a new waterfront ballpark that they've been trying to get built for 20 years to replace the aging Oakland Coliseum. The Warriors and the Raiders both left the city last year. The Warriors going across the bay to San Francisco. The Raiders decamped for Vegas.
The A's should follow the Raiders to Vegas. I don't know if you saw this, but the Raiders just installed a nightclub in the end zone of their new football stadium there. It's crazy. It's like the team is awful, but at least you can like get bottle service in the end zone and watch them suck it up now. Because it's Vegas, right? Why not? But the Oakland Coliseum, which is where the Raiders once played and is where the A's still play, widely considered to be the worst and the ugliest stadium in America. It's just this like 55-year-old brutalist monstrosity. They built it back in the day to service both the NFL and the MLB. It's been disappointing fans of both sports for 6 decades now. It's known to have a sewage problem that backs up into the dugouts during baseball games. They have a big rodent problem where fans regularly find dead rats in the vending machines. So yeah, they definitely, I think they do need a new stadium. But these are always, this is just a threat, right? It's a threat to get the city to get taxpayers to foot the bill for a new ballpark.
Listen, if I'm putting a quarter or whatever it is now to buy a bag of pretzels into the vending machine and a dead rat comes out, I'm never going back. That's a huge problem.
Big time.
And finally, the East Coast is about to be home to one of the biggest mating rituals in the natural world. And no, we are not talking about Fleet Week or anything like that. Cicadas, this is going to be known as the Great Eastern Brood or Brood X. They come out to play for the first time in 17 years. The Brood X cicada is one of the insect's largest groups. There are literally literally trillions of them. And there are already reports up and down the coast of their romantic howlings keeping people up at night. It should last until the end of June. And that's when they head back underground after doing their thing.
Okay, the last time this many cicadas emerged from their subterranean homes, Jill, John Kerry running for president. This was the top song in the country.
Peace up, A-Town down. Yeah.
Whatever happened to Little John? Usher's still around, but Little John not so much. And no joke, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were planning their wedding, which they would then call off later this year. So yeah, if you're on the East Coast, look out for these sex-starved insects for the next 6 weeks or so. It's going to get real loud out there. I hate these stories because I hate looking at the pictures of these things. Like, just Google cicada. It's like, I don't like bugs. I'm not a bug guy.
Well, I'm not a bug girl. I think that it's kind of symbolic of what's going on, though. Just like the fact that the cicadas are coming out for the first time in 17 years, big mating season. And I feel like that's kind of going to be symbolic of the summer here.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Fleet Week this year in New York is going to get wild.
Okay, that's what you need to know for Wednesday, May 12th.
See you guys.